Hey guys, Becky here with Design Bundles, and I'm super excited to have you join me today because we have a really great sublimation tutorial. This time I'm talking to all my Cricut users as we are going to design a sublimation print in Cricut Design Space and print directly to our Sawgrass printer. Alright guys, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and one common question that I receive a lot is, can I use Cricut Design Space to design for sublimation? Yes, you absolutely can. The only drawback with using Design Space is that you're limited to the same print size as you are for print and cut, which is roughly 9 by 7. A little bit smaller, it's actually 6.75. But where I'm going with this is if you're doing a small design, say you're doing a mug or maybe some small chapstick holders or something like that, then absolutely you can design in Cricut Design Space and send to your sublimation printer. There is also the opportunity to be able to slice your design and piece them back together. Now we will cover that in a follow-up video, but what I'm going to show you today is just how to set up a basic design and then how to send that design to print on your Sawgrass printer. Now like I said, this is assuming that you are using a smaller design area than what you're used to. So let's go ahead and start by uploading some elements. Now I purchased these from designbundles.net. We're just going to go to upload and we're going to browse in my downloads folder. First thing I'm going to bring in is a PNG file. Now you may be asking, I know that I can print, but can I print and cut? Again, yes you can. That is also just going to depend on the size of the design that you're working with. The only reason you would want to print and cut would be if you wanted to print on something like Easy Subli. Okay, so still a really great option, but that's not what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the basics of designing for sublimation. So let's import this PNG, and then I am going to also upload an SVG file. Now, I always tell everybody, anything that you can print for sublimation. So I'm going to select both of these. One is a PNG and one is an SVG, and I'm going to combine them. And because Cricut Design Space does not discriminate, so to speak, when it comes to printing, I'll be able to combine these and print them as one design. Now clearly they come in as different sizes. The PNG comes in at a pretty large size, so let's go ahead and size that down using the toolbar up here for sizing. Now let's see, let's do 9.25, and still a little large. I'm just going to show you what happens when you do try to print a larger image. So let's move this out of the way, and we need to group this together. Okay, so grab that, and okay, it is grouped. So let's just make that a little larger, and we can just combine these. Now I have a t-shirt in mind, but of course you can absolutely use this for any type of sublimation project. Now, one thing that I do a lot also is use the offset tool to give a defined distinction between my text and my background. In this one, it's not overly necessary, but let me just show you just in case that's something you want to do. So I'm just going to choose the offset tool, and then I don't want it to be very large, so I'm going to decrease this down. Let's see, let's do 0.04. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that should be good. We will choose apply. And then what I want to do is fill that in with white. Okay. And like I said, it's basically, it's not anything I'm going to cut, but it separates the text from the background. Can you see the white border down here around the bottom? Sometimes it just really helps, especially when you have a very dominant background. Okay. Now what we're going to do, just to keep it all together, we're going to grab everything and we're going to flatten it. Now, not required, I could have attached them, but flatten it just classifies everything as a print and cut and keeps it all as one, as you can see over here on the right hand side. So if I click over to make it, it's going to tell me the project is incompatible, and that is because of that print size that I was telling you about. So let's go ahead and reduce this to 6.75, and now if I click to make it, it should work properly. Now, you may be asking, why does Cricut limit the print area? Well, that's because, as you're about to see, it gives a thick black border around the outside. And that's because that is what the Cricut machine would use to be able to identify where to cut. Now, we're not going to cut today, so we don't need to worry about that, but it is a default in the program. So some people will say, well, that's not very efficient on your ink. Well, of course not. You are going to waste the black ink around the outside. But in theory, all you're going to do is trim around this portion, and then you'll have your sublimation design, and you don't have to worry about this thick black border. Okay, so we're just going to click continue, just like we would if we were going to cut. Now it is going to still identify my machine, so I do have to have my machine plugged in and be able to connect to it, whether it's Bluetooth or through the USB, okay? But other than detecting the machine, we're not actually going to use it. So now it does go ahead and load the prompts just like it would if I was going to cut. So I'm just going to choose send to printer, and then I can select my printer from the list. Now I'm going to choose Sawgrass Print Manager, and I'm going to make sure that my bleed is turned off. I do not want the bleed for this design because I'm not going to be cutting it. Now the print bleed usually acts as a barrier so that if your cut is a little bit off, then it won't have an awkward white line around it. But since we're not cutting, we're just going to turn the bleed off and choose print. Now this is going to launch the print manager. Of course, if you're printing from an Epson or something like that, then you don't necessarily have to worry about that. But one thing also to remember, because I'm printing through print manager, it is going to, as you can see here on the left hand side, mirror my design for me. So if you're printing from a printer like an Epson, and you do not have your automatic mirroring turned on, then you would need to do that in the software, okay? But I think a lot of us have the automatic mirroring turned on, so we don't have to worry about it. Now I can choose my substrate. Again, I'm just going to choose polyester because I have a t-shirt in mind to be able to use this on. We'll leave the print as high quality, or leave the paper and the tray alone. So now I can choose print, and it will absolutely go ahead and send this to print on my Sawgrass printer. So that's going to key it up and actually send it to the printer, regardless of whatever printer I've chosen. And guys, this is literally the end of our tutorial. So that is how easy it is to be able to print any type of design using your either Sawgrass printer or Epson printer, and then using Cricut Design Space as your designing software. So really easy, really simple. Like I said, just, with that limitation that you have to worry about, to be able to print larger images and piece them together. But that's a tutorial from another day. I will go ahead and give a little plug that if you are interested in learning how to set up designs in Cricut Design Space and print them using another software like the Sawgrass Creative Studio, or maybe you want to print it larger and you're going to import it into Silhouette Studio or Microsoft Word, then absolutely we have a tutorial on that, and you can check it out on our YouTube channel. But for now, guys, this is what we're working with, and hopefully you enjoyed. So guys, how did you feel about creating in Cricut Design Space and printing directly to your Sawgrass printer? Of course, it's super easy, especially if you're already familiar with Design Space. And another benefit is that all the images and clip art and SVG files that you already have in your library can now be used for your sublimation prints. And let me just show you, because like I said, it does have the black border. I'm just going to trim it real quick with some scissors and show you just how easy it is. And now I have a perfectly usable sublimation image that I can put on any project I choose. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the tutorial today. I do love sharing crafty information with you guys. And of course, if you have anything to share in return, I love hearing from you guys. Or if you have any questions, make sure you leave all that information down below. I do check back in with you guys. But guys, I am going to wrap it up for today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Maybe share with a crafty friend. I love all the support that you show for us. And thanks again, guys. We'll see you again next time.